So in this example, we have to figure out the four geometric terms between 2 and 64. So that means we have to find the terms that come in between it. So an important thing to see is that it says geometric means. So unlike the last problem, instead of finding a common difference, getting from one term to the next, we are finding the common ratio. So that means something will multiply to get from one term to the next. So like the last problem, we should basically start numbering our values in order to help plug in the values into our equation. So we find that 64 is the sixth term. So we basically, once again, have to return back to the equation because it will help you solve almost every problem until we get to sums. So our equation is a sub n equals a1 times r n minus 1. So remember that we are trying to find r. We are trying to find how we got from 2 all the way up to 64, or how we're getting from one term to the next, so that we can multiply that term by 2 and figure out the four geometric means. So we can plug in right now everything we know. So we know a value for a sub n and n, and that is 6 and 64. So 64 is our a sub n. Our first term is 2 times r, what we're trying to find, n minus 1. So that's 6 minus 1. So 64 equals 2 times r to the 5th. R to the 5th equals 32. And when we simplify that, you get r equals 2. So that means that our common ratio, so how we're getting from one term to the next, we multiply that term by a value of 2. So that means 2 times 2 equals 4, times 2 equals 8, times 2 equals 16, times 2 equals 32. And 32 times 2 equals 64. So that means we have solved this problem correctly. So in the context of this problem, this means that the four geometric means, so the four terms in between 2 and 64 are 4, 8, 16, and 32. So remember that we figured this out by mainly figuring out what our common difference was, or our common ratio, excuse me. So because if you figure that term out, then that basically shows you how to get from one term to the next. And you do know that it's a common ratio instead of the common difference because it is a geometric sequence.